Hey everyone. So, we already know how many people feel stuck in the limitations of conventional medicine, and that's exactly why I created Holistic Health with Melissa to take you on a journey from conventional to crunchy. Here, you'll get empowering wellness insights, practical tips, and faith centered strategies to help you feel your absolute best. In each episode, we'll dig into what true health and wellness really means. We'll dive into nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, and detox, all things so important to your health. We'll chat about raising kids with intention and living life of faith. So join me to reclaim your energy, embrace your healthiest life, and find joy and purpose along the way. Hey, ladies. Thank you for being here. I am so excited to dive into today's podcast. But first, I want to grab your full attention really quick because I want to talk about something really exciting that's coming up. If you have been feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, or you feel like you're just living in constant survival mode, then listen up because this is for you. I am hosting a brand new 3-day mind body healing workshop. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. This is for you if you're a woman who feels like you've tried everything. You've tried all the supplements, the diets, the therapy, the positive thinking, and you still feel stuck in your stress, stuck in your symptoms, and in a spiral of burnout and survival mode. Over the course of these 3 powerful days, I'm going to teach you the exact nervous system regulation techniques that helped me and hundreds of women like you finally get out of fight or flight, start healing from chronic stress and trauma, and reconnect with our true selves, reclaiming our energy, getting our confidence back, and finally living in alignment with God's calling. You'll learn how to calm your body in real time, release trapped emotions and patterns that are keeping you stuck, release those limiting beliefs that are ruminating in your head, reclaim your energy and your mental clarity, regulate your emotions instead of reacting, rebuild your confidence and self-trust, and start feeling safe in your body again. This isn't just about managing your symptoms, it's about transformation. It's about becoming the woman who no longer feels like she's barely holding it all together. It's about healing at the root of your symptoms so you can finally feel that peace, your power, and your purpose in your everyday life. It's practical, powerful, and it's exactly what your nervous system has been craving. So grab your spot now. The link is in the show notes. There's limited spots available. I cannot wait to walk through this with you. See you there. Hey everyone, welcome back to Holistic Health with Melissa. I am so excited that you are here. I have a dear friend of mine. I love bringing my friends on the podcast. Vika, I'm so happy that you're here. Vika is just so near and dear to my heart, and she has an amazing story to tell. Vika is an integrative health practitioner who loves working with motivated women to overcome digestive complaints, hormone, and autoimmune symptoms through a root cause approach. She's also the mom of 2 boys, one of which is a sweethearted child with special needs. She originally studied neuroscience during her undergraduate studies and then moved into a master's of healthcare administration in hopes of changing the field within after experiencing a more positive healthcare experience abroad. However, her own journey with Hashimoto's quickly led her to the holistic health industry, and she dived in even deeper after her firstborn suffered a health and neurological regression. And this conversation is so timely. That's kind of why this came to be, right? Is like everything that's going on in the political realm and the talk of Tylenol and all of that. So I am so happy and just like honored that you are here, Vika. I love you so much. And I just cannot wait for you
Oh,
to share your story. Thank you for being here.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And the love is the same back to you. I have so much love for you.
Um, I feel like our meeting was so divine. And I just love that, we are on opposite sides of the country and we are still like such good friends. And I feel like I support you, you support me. And it's so nice to have like business besties. Like
Absolutely.
you're my business bestie. So
I love it. I love it.
awesome. Well, I know so much, like so many different parts of your story. And I know it's like there's so much to it, and we're not going to possibly have enough time to go through all of it. But what I really want to talk about is like your experience with your own health, and then also your experience with your son's health. And I know what happened a little bit with him. And I really think that this, what we were talking about before we started recording is like the conversation. I don't hear people talking about how when a mother experiences her child being sick, what that does to her and the
Yeah,
trauma that ensues inside of her as a result of that. So if we could, can you just start by giving us like an overview? I
a
know
little
it's gonna be
background.
hard, but like a little background on like what happened,
Yeah.
like your own health, what happened with your son, and how you
Yeah.
ended up here.
So the short version with my health story is that I started developing symptoms when I was maybe in high school and they kind of peaked in college and eventually I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disorder. The process of getting diagnosed, the process of getting help was very long. It came with a lot of gaslighting, which I know is very common. Like getting the diagnosis is very difficult, especially at that time when I was so young. I think it was dismissed a lot. I know other women that I've worked with, often talk about like being dismissed and calling it anxiety, calling it something else, calling it IBS, and then eventually they realize they have an autoimmune disorder. So I kind of already dealt with medical trauma along that. And then when I had my firstborn, I kind of wasn't given any information of how Hashimoto's could even impact pregnancy, how it could impact a second baby, anything like that. I wasn't told to do anything differently. And then I had a emergency C-section, so that was something that implicated my kiddo. And then other than that, he was born, we started breastfeeding, everything was going good. He was hitting every single milestone perfectly. And then one day I noticed that he stopped saying mama, he stopped saying papa, he started ignoring me. And at this point, he was already knew two languages, not fluently, because he was between 1 and 2 years old. But I could ask him in Russian. For some background, I'm Eastern European. I'm from Belarus. So we would speak to him in Russian and in English. I could ask him where his eyes, where his nose, like all the typical things you do with a kiddo at that age. And he stopped doing that. He started moving away from us and ignoring us. He started banging his head. He started doing all these things. And I know the conversation is very controversial about like, vaccines, about different things. And I know different kids regress for different reasons. It might not be even related to vaccines. But at the time, I didn't know what was happening. So when I went to the doctor, our pediatrician, I told her something is going seriously wrong. I did ask her, we were vaccinating at the time. I did ask her about vaccines. I had actually saw some signs earlier on where he wasn't reacting very well to vaccines and he was having symptoms, but they would kind of go away. And around this time, they didn't really go away. And I told her, this is what's happening. And what our pediatrician told us was, well, sometimes when kids are working on other skills, like maybe motor skills, they lose some of their other skills, but it will come back. It'll come back in 2 weeks. Well, it never came back. And I started talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, well, we do early intervention for our kiddo who's delayed in speech. I was like, okay, I'll go into early intervention. We'll do that, which I did not get from my doctor. So this again, I'm reliving medical trauma, being gaslit again, not giving resources again. So I'm living in a full trauma state. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to trust. And I go to we also traveled a lot. So that also made things a little bit more complicated. We relocated every year for my husband's job. So we didn't have consistent care. But at the time, I was like, I can't do early intervention because we're 2 months away from a move. I'm going to do speech therapy. We got into speech therapy. We started hearing the word autism a lot. They're like, we see signs of autism. We see signs of autism. I'm like, that's really weird. Like some of the things that you're saying are signs of autism he did not have before. And you guys are telling me autism is from birth. So I'm a little confused. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going with it, you know? Then we do early intervention. We hear the same thing again. We're like, you guys should get diagnosed. And at the time, I knew nothing about autism, nada. Like I wouldn't have a dog in the bone about the, politics, nothing. I really didn't know. So eventually, um, we're still on this journey. We're doing speech therapy. Speech therapy is doing nothing for us. Like we're not getting any new words back. The words he lost before aren't coming back. Maybe he's getting new noises once a week, like once per week. And then he started developing other things. It wasn't just speech. He also started having chronic like diarrhea. He developed pica. He had a really good diet before the regression and he started to lose foods and he started to pica is when you eat in like inanimate objects, like things that aren't food, like licking walls, like, licking the cement. And I was like, something's seriously wrong. And I knew that could be related to deficiencies. I knew also that it could be related possibly to parasites. So I was trying to figure out how to help him. And then I stumbled upon a supplement with BioRay and I was like trying to actually get rid of parasites at the time because I was like, he's also grinding his teeth. A lot of signs from my culture like kind of led to parasites. And I noticed after we did that supplement, which it's not just parasitic, it has other things in it, chlorella, spirulina. I didn't know anything about anything at the time, how it could help him with his speech, but we started getting a new word a day. So I was like, okay, something is not what it seems. Like the advice I'm getting from the medical system is not working for us, but something else is working. And they're telling us it's not possible. So we start going the holistic route. I already had a holistic background for my health. My husband worked with holistic doctors when he had a health issue. So I kind of knew that it was already out there. And I started learning that you could do functional medicine for kids who are on the spectrum. And that's like a thing. And it works for some kids. It helps improve, it helps reverse all symptoms in some kids, it helps reverse some symptoms in others. So we started looking for that. And around the same time, we were like, let's do the diagnosis because speech therapists are telling us we have to do a autism diagnosis. We went on a wait list, but it can take a year and we kept relocating every year. So we're like, we're never going to get there with this wait list one. So we're like, we'll go to a private one and work with a developmental pediatrician. So we went to the developmental pediatrician. She's looking at my child. I'm telling the story. I'm also telling her that some of the symptoms that she's asking, do we have? I'm like, we did, but we use these supplements and they're gone. And she, at the end of it, it was funny because coming in, she was like, I was like, oh, I heard that we might have to do it more than once in a lifetime. She's like, oh, I can tell within 5 minutes whether someone's on the spectrum or not. And then at the end of our appointment, she was like, I don't know. I don't know. She was like, this is not typical autism. Autism usually is from birth. And she was older. So she's like, I was part of the generation where there was Asperger's, and those kids tend to be like hyperverbal, hyperlingual. They're very intelligent and they kind of tell you what to do. And obviously, that's not, we have a spectrum now. So people are very different. But she said those kids usually didn't regress. The kids that did regress were like the severe autistic kids, and they were the ones who had delays. They didn't necessarily regress, but they had delays from the beginning. They couldn't talk. They had other things going on. And she was like, he doesn't fully fit in either bucket, and he doesn't fully fit into what I typically see as a spectrum. So she diagnosed us with encephalopathy with risk of autism. Um, so that was to me like, okay, something is really going differently. But we kept traveling. So we kept just doing what they told us to do. They did tell us to see a neurologist, but again, we traveled. So like the wait list for that was about a year. And I know this is so freaking common. So I do want to like reach out, like talk about that trying to get your kid help when you have something like a complicated condition, especially in the autistic world, there's so many wait lists. And it's like by the time you get on the wait list, that you lose all that time to help your child, So like we're relocating, we're trying to get them the services. And that's when, and we're also going to holistic and functional doctors. But again, we're relocating. So we're starting over every year. And that's when I was like, you know what? I need to go back and I need to get into the holistic world so I can help them in the gaps when we're transitioning, or for me to even understand what they're talking about. Because I really didn't know. But this is what our journey was. And at the same time, I'm, you know, I did ask the holistic doctors, could this be related to vaccines? And they said, we do see this. So I was like, I want to be careful. I sat on it for a long time. I do think the vaccine conversations are very complicated. It's not a one size fits all. Um, but I was like, we're taking a step back. And now, because I've been in this world now a little bit longer, and I'm not an expert in autism, and I don't want to say I am because I think there's so many buckets of this. But I learned that there is something called, I think it's called like maternal autoantibody. I forget what the R stands for, but it's a type of autism that's related to the moms having autoimmune disease. And some moms with autoimmune disease are more likely to have autoantibodies in their brain. And moms of these kids could also have autoantibodies, pass those on in utero. And these kids are more prone to regressions.
Mm.
But they are not guaranteed to have regressions. They still need a trigger. And I personally, this is my personal opinion, I think this is something that should be investigated by the medical system, by the government. And if those moms are at higher risk, maybe we need a different vaccine schedule for those moms. If we're talking about moms who already have a disrupted immune system, is
Yeah.
already hyperactive, they are not going to respond the same way to a vaccine like a normal kid who doesn't have any signs of autoimmune disease. So that to me is big. It's an important factor, and it's something I knew nothing about until I dived deep into this journey. So I'm learning about all this. I'm trying to help him as I go, and we are seeing improvement. But later on, we moved and we settled down in Michigan now. That's where we're at. And we were told before by the developmental pediatrician that I would suggest to do the autism evaluation again. But she said, given that you guys relocate, some states won't take a past diagnosis in another state. So she said, when you guys settle down, and that's where we are in Michigan, that's when I would do another diagnosis and see where you guys land. And I personally felt like the diagnosis was a scam because you pay like over $2,000, which is a big chunk of change that you could use towards holistic services instead. But we were like, you know what? Maybe we gotta listen to the medical system. Maybe we gotta do it this way. So we did it. They, I think it was like 3 hours long, but it felt like they didn't really look at my kid all that much. They listened to my story, but it was almost like a quick checklist. And they're like, yep, he's autistic. Here's access to ABA therapy. And I was like, okay, this could not be more of a scam. And I could also see how if a mom didn't notice signs of regression early on, that they would, or that they didn't talk to, a friend who could told them to do earlier intervention, or they didn't know about the holistic world, that they would just be dumped on the spectrum with no background. Like that to me was like the most painful part of the process. I'm like, if my kid regressed, like, why aren't you figuring out if he has autoantibodies in his brain? Like they did talk about seizures because they said seizures can cause regression, but at one point I did consider it because he was kind of having blank looks in his faces. And again, with vaccines, which I know is very, very controversial, and I don't have like a one way or the other opinion about it, but that can cause seizures in some kids, that can trigger seizures. And he was having those absent looks where that could have been an issue. Those are gone now with all the holistic things we done. He keeps progressing, he keeps getting better, but he's still disabled. So all that caused so much medical trauma. I was like, I feel like, and I was very mad at myself for a long time. I'm like, I had so much problems listening to the medical system for my own health. Why didn't I know better that I should look into all these things before letting a pediatrician like just blind support and like I don't even know how to explain it, but to listen to them blindly when it didn't work for me. Like
Yeah.
I should have known better that maybe for some of my kids it wouldn't work very well either. I was highly reactive to a lot of medications. So it's like having the same approach as someone who is perfectly healthy would have not worked for my children. And nobody had that conversation with me. So again, it caused all this distrust, it caused all this trauma, and I went into the same trauma response I did for my health. What can I do to survive? What can I do to feel better? And when before I was married, it was very diet focused. I focused on diet and lifestyle. Once I got married, I didn't know that there was integrative doctors, but my husband knew about them because he used them for a medical situation he had. And he had very good, like very high success with that. So then I learned about that and I started leaning into that. But like it also made me realize what a disservice it has been for people who don't know anything about that
Yeah.
because they're probably gaslit some of the time. They're
Yep.
not given any resources and then they're pushed acceptance and ABA. ABA therapy or speech therapy does not work for all of these kids. For some of them, the way that I looked at it when I started to see my kid have some improvement, it's like there's a door that's closed. And if it's blocked by something biomedical, like whether there's health issues going beneath the scenes, if there's some sort of brain injury going on beneath the scenes, if, like PANS and PANDAS, I learned about that, which is more of that autoimmune response going on behind the scenes. If that's all blocking their development, then no speech therapy, no type of therapy is going to move them forward. You have to find a way to open up that door and then things flow and they go a little bit easier. It does not mean they'll be 100%. Maybe some kids will. But at least they're going to be progress and they're going to feel better. So for me, that word acceptance was so triggering because I'm like, you're telling me to blind accept something and telling me, like, oh, you don't know, they might be happy in their own little world. I'm like, I don't think so. Because I was not happy when I developed autoimmune disease, but nobody could see how much pain I was in. Because you look at a person and I'm probably posting fun pictures on social media, like having a good time, but nobody's seeing me behind closed doors, like feeling depressed, having pain, not being able to get up, getting like pneumonia 4 times a year. And then I'm looking at my child's health situation through the lens of what I went through. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're looking at him and he's just not paying attention to you. And they're like, oh, it's just part of autism. He doesn't know any better. And he's like, flapping his ears and banging his head. They're like, that's just part of autism. Oh, digestive issues are part of autism. And these poor kids are often like given just Miralax or some sort of like thing that honestly makes it worse, or like enemas. I know one poor child with autism who are getting daily enemas for the digestive issues. And I do not blame the parents because they do not know.
They
They
don't know.
have no idea what else to do. They're listening to professionals. So, and that is their trauma response. Their trauma response is, whoa, this is big. This is heavy. My poor child. What do I do? This
Yeah.
is just who they are. And the medical professionals are telling me there's nothing I can do about it. So all I can do is kind of survive day by day. Versus for me, I was like, no, I know this can't be it. I've been through this. I've been through this. And I'm watching my kid go through this. And I know he's having pain. Oh, I still like remember one of the most traumatic moments where, he used to bang his head and again, he lost speech. And until like maybe a year or two went by, and he was sick and he finally like said the words like my head hurts and I was like, "Oh my God, my poor child couldn't even tell me when he was in pain." And he was banging his head and he finally like showed it to me and was like, "Hurts, mommy." And I was just like, I know, like deep in my soul, I know there's so many kids on the spectrum who can't speak and they're in pain. And for me, that's like the most like traumatizing part about it. And I know parents don't know what to do. And I
Yeah.
can't say I know what to do either. There's a lot of ways to go about the same thing, but it is heavy. I don't know if I answered your question,
Yeah.
but hopefully I
I
did.
know it's such that's I'm it was perfect. And I feel like there's so many nuggets in there, Vika. And like, first of all, the first thing I want to say is like you said, I was so mad at myself. Why didn't I know better than to trust them blindly? And I think that this is such a heavy and like raw emotion and thing, like feeling that everybody goes through when they have
100%.
some sort of like trauma, right? Like hindsight is always 2020. We look back and we
100%.
say, why didn't I know better? And like honestly, I feel like so many women are going to see themselves in you because they're like, wow, like I felt the exact same way, but I just want to like speak truth over that and just say like this is not that is not your burden to bear.
Right.
You did the best that you could in that moment. And like, you have no, like, how dare you be mad at yourself? Like,
Right.
don't judge yourself for being mad at you. or for
Not
don't judge
knowing.
yourself for not knowing because you didn't know. When you know
Right.
better, you do better.
Right. Right.
You quite literally didn't know, and I feel like that's so common. Like people are trusting the medical system because they don't have any other option. There
Right.
is no other, like in your case, you had a lot of motivation, you had a lot of education, you had, your husband was super supportive. I know that's been a big factor. Like
Oh, absolutely.
so many other women are going through this. They don't have the education, they don't have the resources, they don't have a supportive
Exactly.
husband, they don't have any knowledge about like their own experience with the medical
Right.
system. Something happens with their child and they just have no other choice but to accept
Absolutely.
it. And I feel like
Exactly.
I want to be clear, like I don't think because I feel like this is a slippery slope. I want to be really clear about my opinions, and I'm pretty sure that you and I share the same
Yeah.
opinion on this. Like I do not believe that traditional medicine is all bad. I think
Agreed.
there's a time and a place. I
Agreed.
am so thankful for ICUs, ERs, and ORs, but I
100%.
don't think that traditional medicine does a even really good job, like a decent, a fair job. I don't think that traditional medicine does an even fair job at helping people through chronic illness and actually being healthy. I don't
Yes.
think that that's where it is.
Yeah,
So,
there's definitely gaps in there. So it complicates things, right?
yeah,
Because that's what people have access to. And that's where I feel so much for moms
yeah,
that it's like I almost sometimes feel guilty that I knew all this information because you do need to have access to even try it, right? And I'm so glad that you bring up that, moms shouldn't be guilted by it because I think that's one of the biggest things that were happening politically that people were feeling so triggered. On one hand, there were moms who were like, I want to know, I want to help my child, I want to know what's going on, what could be the causes, what could be the solutions. And there was another side of the moms where they're like, I just want acceptance. I want to ignore this. I just want funding. I just want,
yeah,
to know that when I die, my kid is still going to be supported. And they both are so valid because it is heavy and not everyone has access to the things that we're talking about. Not everyone has knowledge. A lot of people are living in a day-to-day, survival mode. And I do understand how it could just be too heavy for them.
yeah,
If they're told, you should, like, this contributed to it, this contributed to it, and they're like, why didn't anyone tell me when I was going through it? You almost have to go through that big period of grief to overcome, to like accept that, like, okay, I didn't know it was an accident. It doesn't always happen to everyone, like, we're still learning in this process, and I just have to stop and move forward. But if people are experiencing that trauma on a mass scale in real time, it feels too big to hold. Because
yeah,
I was kind of not understanding it for a while. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to figure out what the root causes are? Why wouldn't you want to figure out how to help your child? For me, it helps so much. But then I realized I've already been through that process. I've already been through that grieving
you've
process where
grieved.
I
Yeah,
was so upset with myself. And like you said, it's not like it's my fault. But I was like, why couldn't I have known? Why didn't I look into this? What could I have done to like have a better outcome? And I felt so much sadness and so much disappointment. And I was really hard on myself. And my version was to kick it up a notch. And I'd be like reading through books daily. Like I would read a full book in 24 hours. I wouldn't put it down until I was like, give me at least a couple of things I can do for my kid
searching for
tomorrow. Yeah.
answers.
And I was searching for answers
Yeah,
and, and some people can't even handle that because they're like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's heavy because
Yeah,
you just
it's
start to,
it's your
it's their
nervous
nervous
system.
system.
Yeah, it's like the answer for some people, like you just so beautifully put it, is that like there was people on one side of the aisle that were saying, and this is not political, right? Like this
Yeah.
is people's experience. Like some people's experience
It's
is
within the autism community is what
within
I'm
the
talking about.
autism
Because
community.
you
Yeah.
might have
They,
even different political opinions within that divide, but
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there was like a kind of clear divide.
Yeah,
Um,
people wanting, like, I want more research. I want to know what the root cause is. I
yeah,
think vaccines have a part in this. I think that Tylenol has a part in this. I think
yeah,
that, and they're like wanting, they're pushing for that like research and
yeah.
that um
Conversation, even just to have the
conversation.
conversation out
Exactly.
in the open.
Versus the other side that are saying, like, I just want my child to be accepted for who they are. And I don't want to try to blame anything because we already know that it's genetic, or we already know that
Yeah,
it's XYZ or whatever. And they're like, for them, it's too heavy, it's
it's too
too big,
heavy.
it's too much. They don't want to go here. And for the other people, the opposite. It's too
Yeah,
heavy to go here. Like, I'm not going to
exactly.
accept this. That's too heavy.
Yeah.
I can't hold that.
And it's a both of it is a trauma response. Like I will fully admit, like now, like because I feel like for me got really really heavy at the thick of the autism conversation a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I've kind of like I pushed through, I released it, I cried, I like all my emotions like went full front, and I feel a little bit better. But it was like I couldn't hear the word acceptance. It was so triggering to me because it felt like medical neglect. And
Yeah.
I know at the like a bottom of my soul, for some people, that's not what it means at all. And I think there's so much value in
And that's all they
acceptance.
can do.
Yeah.
That's all they're just like, I have to just accept it because
And
it's too
beyond that,
much.
like even for me, I realized there is so much value to the word acceptance. It can mean meeting somewhere where they're at right now. It does not have to mean that that's where their story ends. It could just mean this is what we're dealing with right now. Because like a lot of these kids, they struggle with things beyond just speech. You know, like for us, it's like he can't do group extracurriculars very well. You know, like he struggles with understanding language. He struggles with focus. Like he won't participate like a neurotypical healthy child will. And for us, like that piece of acceptance was so important to be like, okay, if I'm going to try something new, it's not going to be like what everyone else is. If I want to do it, I know my nervous system is going to skyrocket right here. I'm miserable the whole time. I'm freaking out the whole time. I'm like, um, I worry that he's disrupting the class, even though he's the sweetest child and he means no harm from it. He's doing the absolute best that he can, but it's disruptive. Even in activities that are like so-called inclusive, when you see you're the only person that's being disruptive, I don't think everyone wants you to be included. And that hurts to watch. But that acceptance piece has gave me a little bit of peace of knowing I can accept that he is going to struggle a little bit more and I have to cheer him on no matter what. I have to love him and support him because he's doing his best. It won't be somebody else's best, but it'll be his best. Or I can accept that maybe these are not a good fit and we're going to try private lessons or we're going to just, you know, do things for fun. If swimming is a goal, actually we are in swim classes right now, but like at one point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take him to the rec center. I'm going to swim with him because it'll be positive. It's a level he can achieve for where he's at. And I think that understanding of acceptance, of meeting somewhere where they're at, is so beautiful. It's so helpful and it is healing. I think where I really didn't like the word acceptance was, oh, it's just stimming when they're banging their head. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
it's just part of autism when they're having diarrhea or constipation every day. Those are the things I can't accept because those are health issues. That's very, very different. And I do see in the medical world, it's so common for people to be like, oh, that's just part of autism. Like, don't worry about it. But that's not fair. That's not fair because there's a lot of kids who are having these issues these days. And it it limits their capacity for health, for life. And I
Yeah.
think those things do need to be supported and investigated, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like what you said too is you were explaining like the vaccines, like when that came into when that's a hot topic, right?
It
People
is.
want to, there's people on both sides of the aisle who are have strong opinions about the um role of
Mm-hmm.
vaccines in the development
Mm-hmm.
or manifestation of
Mm-hmm.
autism. And I am so not like an expert in any of those topics. But my thing is like, I feel like, why are we like, there is in traditional medicine, I feel like there is this, and I actually just made a reel about this morning. I feel like standardized medicine, like this one size fits all for all people, whether it's vaccines or medications or protocols or
Absolutely.
whatever, like this one size fits all is not helpful. There
No,
is no treatment at all, whether it's a vaccine or a medication or a protocol or another type of treatment or intervention. There is no intervention that exists that is a one size fits all because it
absolutely.
quite literally goes against our own unique like bio individual needs and like biochemistry and like experiences and exposures and all of those things. So like I think that for me, like what I see in that conversation is like I feel really happy to see those conversations taking
Yes,
place because like that's something that I've been for, a decade plus. Like, why are we not having these conversations? And like, why are we just like blindly giving like every child the same stuff? Like, I don't think that that's the right answer. Like, I don't think the same every single child needs the same exact cookie cutter like schedule or treatment
absolutely.
or like I don't think that that's the right thing. So I love that you brought that up. I just like the amount of like grief that you must have experienced. I want to talk about like what that was like and how you have processed through that over the years because I know it's been several years. This is like how
Yeah.
long ago was it that he was diagnosed?
Well, his regression was between 1 and 2,
So
so
how many
around that
years?
1.5, and he's going to be 6 right now. So,
Like
like
4 or 5 years ago.
yeah. And
So how
he was diagnosed probably more like 2.5, maybe 3, but I think it was 2.5. But yeah, so I have had a lot of time.
I want to know like what your process, like I know you said like you were so mad at yourself, why didn't I know better? And I know like with this most recent conversation, like it brought up a lot of emotion. So, and I think like healing from trauma is not a destination, it's a journey and there's
Absolutely.
always different layers and like it's like peeling an onion, right? Like and like it's something that you work through and work toward for your lifetime.
Yeah.
And might be circumstances and things that come up that you're like, oh wow, like that piece right there, like that's still there. And you have
Yeah.
to peel the onion back and like look at it from a different lens. And Peter Crone always says life will always present you with people and circumstances to show you where you're not free. And I really do believe that that's the truth. I want to talk a little bit about like how
How
you
I coped.
processed through all of that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. One, I'm an intellectualizer. So that's good or bad. Sometimes it's bad because I get stuck in just thought process and rumination. But my first thing was, what can I do? What can I do? And I think focusing on steps forward and where I have control kept me going forward. But it's like I would have a couple steps and I would have a complete meltdown where I'm breaking down, I'm crying, I'm venting to my husband, which I am very, very blessed that I had a very supportive family. My parents, my husband's family, my husband, they were all on our side. And I am a little bit of an annoying person. So when I feel very strongly about someone, I get people on my side. I will keep talking to them. I'll keep showing up. I'll keep that until I have what I need. For them to see it, what we went through. And I think they saw it because they were many parts of the way. My mother-in-law went to the speech therapy appointments with us. She would hear the autism conversations. They would visit a lot and they would see how things change between him, good or bad, like when we had the first regression versus when he improved. So all that stuff kind of helped me move forward. But I remember every time when I would have a meltdown, my husband would say one phrase, and it was the same phrase he used every time. He was like, please just don't give up on him. I'm gonna cry because it was very emotional because I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like angry when I'm complaining. So I'm like, what do you mean? I would never give up on my child, but this is hard. This is awful. Like there's no answers. I'm here doing this alone. And he had a very different perspective. And I'm very grateful he did because he was much more on the line of how do we protect his feelings? He's already gonna have, and this is what I think the acceptance and inclusion crew feel. He was like, he's already gonna have a hard life. Things are going to be very challenging. How do we as parents make him not feel bad about himself, not make it worse, not give him blame? Like he was always thinking about how to protect his feelings because I think that was my husband's trauma. He had his own issues where he was a much more sensitive child. Things really got to him and it kind of took him in a wrong direction. So he's like, I don't want that for my son. We need to, protect his emotions. Versus for me, I had that trauma with my health stuff. So I'm like, no, I have to figure out how to improve his health because I felt so much better when I felt so much better. And I did not feel good when I was incapacitated. So I had that vision of I'm going to keep going until I figure it out. And there is no figuring it out for anyone who's wondering. It's very much still a journey. It's very much still a health journey. There's some things that will work for one person that won't work for another. There's a lot of experimentation involved. There's, trial and error with food. A lot of these kids have ARFID, where they're very limited in food. We developed that on our regression. We didn't have that before, but that's something else I got to experience. So that was a big part of it was that intellectualizing, the just keep going, and then accepting that I'm going to have crashes along the way. It's like a uphill slope, and then I pop down, and then I have to get back up and keep going. So, and I think that's the role of any parent. I also think, like I said, we had family, and the family was very supportive. I have mom who works for pharma in statistics. She's coming from a different angle, and having someone who is in science in pharma almost felt a little bit more comforting to me because I'm like, okay, we're getting someone from the other side who sees what I just saw. They're viewing what happened to my child through the same lens I'm seeing, and they're not, saying like, oh no, you just didn't notice the signs from day one, because that is what you hear a lot. You just didn't notice they were autistic. Maybe he
Yeah,
was, but it doesn't change the fact that, he had a brain injury. Something happened. Like
right.
you can be autistic without losing skills to that extent. We're not talking about little regressions where like, oh, like he was potty trained and then he peed in the bed. We're talking about like loss of skills, like big skills. So I had family. My husband was supportive. He was always a light to us. And he always was like, whatever you think our child needs, I'll pay for it. And that's a privilege that not everyone has. We did drain a lot of our savings to make that happen because we knew, insurance won't get you as far. And even our insurance, we've paid a lot through insurance that unfortunately ended up out of pocket for us. So the whole medical system is very challenging to navigate and it's financially crippling. And I wish that would change. I wish holistic and integrative interventions would be included. That part is broken, which is really, really hard. But I had family, I had my husband, I isolated a lot. So I know one thing that I hear from autistic families is that they lose people that are important to them because those people are not used to what like autism can look like. And again, there's a spectrum. So like some kids might just be a little bit quirky but can fully function. But then there are other kids who are aggressive, who are banging their heads, who are disruptive, who are a little bit scary to witness. And
Mhm.
some of those um people might not feel comfortable with. So there's a loss of friendship and there's an isolation. And some people feel sad and lonely and they reach out to people and they try to find an autism community, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether, like I joined a lot of biomedical groups because that's what I felt very comfortable with. And a lot of those biomedical groups are for children, some with autism, but some might have PANS, some might have other issues that are autoimmune related. That's usually what I landed in. That was my community I found. But I also chose to take a step back. If I had a suspicion somebody wouldn't be comfortable, I would not be going around. And I felt comfortable in isolation. I like myself. I like my family. I like kind of being alone. So that felt less scary than being around someone where I have to explain myself.
Mm,
So we spent a lot of time with our family. And like I said, we got lucky. Our family loved him. So my son didn't wasn't around people who were confused or uh, disappointed or mean to him for most of his like early childhood. People were really supportive, and even when he maybe acted inappropriately or was having a bad day, the people we surrounded ourselves, which was family, didn't make him feel bad, you
yeah.
know? So that was a huge part of it. So if somebody is struggling to find a community or they're struggling with that aspect, I would say look for people who get it. And sometimes people who get it might not be somebody with autism. Like I went to a wellness center and I saw a mom who had a kid who had a stutter. And I saw that child play with my child in the little waiting room and I started to tear up because I'm like, you're my people now, like disabled and struggling people are my people. And I'm so grateful because I don't have to explain myself that something is hard. And it's just like this unspoken bond and connection. And she had another son in a wheelchair. And I was like, I get you. Like, you'd always have a safe space for us, like with us. And I know that my child could be accepted there without having to explain myself or explain him, you know? So that changed my worldview. And I think maybe that's positive because I'm less judgmental because of it. Um, but that's how we coped. We found like people where it just was comfortable. It was authentic. It was, there was no pretending. It's just they get it. Because people who don't get it, and this is something that like I feel like I was kind of re going through during that whole like autism when the Tylenol thing and vaccine conversation came out. I I almost would have felt like I had to speak my piece. And then eventually it clicked to me again. People who don't get it will never get it. And I don't need to convince them to get it. But people who get it, wow, are they such a safe space? They feel so freaking good. And I got really lucky. We moved here, and within the year of moving to Michigan, which is now our permanent home, I made a friend, and she doesn't have, and she was my kid, her kid was my youngest kid's best friend. So the one who's neurotypical and healthy. And we bonded on so many things, and she became a safe space for us. And she treats my oldest, who struggles, like part of the crew, part of the family. I don't have to over explain. Like he also has food allergies and intolerances, and she's the mom who always has snacks. So she's the mom now who always has snacks that my kiddo, who's gluten free and dairy free, can also have. She'll always be like, "Oh, I have these cookies. I know you like Luca," which is my kid's name. So it's like the people that we
Oh,
have in our
sweet.
world now are so healing and safe to me. And I definitely wish that upon every family who is going through this, is to find your people. The people who aren't your people, who aren't inclusive, who aren't kind, you don't need them. Like I promise you that you don't need them. They don't need you. It's okay. They can live their best life somewhere else. But there will be people who get it and who will love you and you can love. And I would lean on them. I would look for them and I would keep your heart open to those people
Oh,
because
I
that
love
was so, so healing. And I think right now, especially, we're in a place where I really count my blessings. And that's another thing that like really, really, really helped me. I, when I have a blessing in my life, I am just as obsessive about my blessings as I am to fix my problems, you know? So like I celebrate the bejesus out of them, you know? Like when I found this friend, I'm like telling her over and over how grateful I to her and she matches my energy, so she does the same. That's why I
it.
love her so much, you know? When something good happens with my child, I'm like celebrating the crap. I'm telling all of her family, guess what he did? He ate one new food today and I'm so pumped. You know, like anything that's good, I celebrate it to another level. And there have been moments where I'm like, people who may not know us may see all my celebrations and assume our life is easy, assume that I have two perfectly healthy children, assume that I'm have always been perfectly healthy. And then I'm like, am I supposed to show off like my struggles a little bit more? Because I am an honest person. But then I realize, no, I don't owe anyone anything. And I deserve to celebrate my blessings. And I think every single person deserves to celebrate their blessings, no matter how big or small. If the
Yeah.
if your blessing is as small as that person smiled at me today instead of giving me a glare, celebrate it. Like that's the stuff that keeps you going. That kind of
Yeah.
takes you out of that trauma response. And I think I'm especially right now kind of trying to move on from my old trauma response, which was how can I heal? How can I heal? How can I heal? And I really lived in that for a long time. And I got very, very serious. And now, again, it's again help with my community who are loving and accepting my new friend. I'm like, you know what? Let's just celebrate more. Let's have more dance parties in our house.
Ah,
Let's be goofy and silly. And I'll meet my kiddo who is disabled at his level. Right now, he's really into K-pop Demon Hunters. So we've watched that movie like so many times. We'll have a dance party to like the beginning of the show. Like I'm trying to lift up as much of the good emotion as I can because otherwise the alternative is sulking in the bad and living in survival. And
yeah.
sometimes even if survival is where you have to be, you have to break free periodically to remember that life is beyond the struggle, you know? And even if you can't heal everything, even if you don't have, you don't have the financial resources to even investigate everything that's out there. Focus on the things that you do have control in, and maybe it's a dance party. Maybe today that's all it is. Or maybe for you, because it is hard for moms, maybe for you, you can't even do a dance party. And today you have to have a self pity party, go in your blanket, do a little bit of screen time, because that means tomorrow you might. Tomorrow, maybe you will have capacity for a dance party. So, always meeting yourself where you're at and trying to pull out those blessings where you can find them and honor
So
them and celebrate them.
yeah, and find your people.
Find your people. Yes,
Yeah.
find your
So
people. Like that's another thing that the word inclusion I kind of don't like because I'm like, I don't think it feels good to anyone to be blindly included when you're including everyone and all of a sudden all of you guys feel uncomfortable. Like I want my son to be included with people who genuinely love his presence and where
yeah.
he feels like he is
Oh, that's
a
such a
rock star where
good.
he's genuinely connecting. And maybe the people he will be connecting with are people who are also have some sort of struggle because they'll get it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. He
So
doesn't
good.
like, not
So
every
good.
neurotypical healthy person has to be best friends with my child just because he's different. Like, I don't think we're owed that. I want it to be authentic. I want it to feel good. And I
Yeah.
want that for everybody. Like, if you're not my friend because you don't get me, I
It's
promise
good.
I'm not mad at you. I
Yeah.
get it. Find your
Hey
person.
everyone,
You don't
thank
have
you
to be
so
silly,
much for
goofy,
tuning
and
in
open and
to
talk about all
Holistic
your
Health with
traumas
Melissa.
like I
It is
enjoy
such an
doing.
honor to
You
have you
can be doing
here. If
something
you
else,
found value
playing
in
golf
today's
or
episode, would
I don't
you
know,
share it with a
baking
friend who
glutinous
might need it
cookies,
too and leave
whatever
us a
floats your
review?
boat.
If you have questions or
I
topic
just love
suggestions, reach
you so
out on
much,
social media
and
or
I
visit
am
our
so
website,
thankful for your friendship and for
holistichealthbymelissa.com.
you
And take
sharing your
care. I'll
story
catch
because
you on
I
the
feel
next
like
episode.
so many moms are going to see themselves in your story, and it's so, so powerful. If somebody wants to reach out to you and connect with you and chat and they're struggling right now, how Yeah.
can they do that?
So I do have an Instagram page for to be completely transparent. This year I took a year off from doing business. I don't work with autistic kids. I love to work with women with autoimmune disease, but I will talk to anyone for free. If you want to reach out to me, I have an Instagram page. It's Vika Rakowski Wellness on Instagram. And I have an email. It's vikarakowskibusiness@gmail.com. You can always reach out if you just want ideas on how to help your child. If you are looking for a community, I will give you all the resources I have. I'm
Amazing.
always here to serve. I
Amazing.
genuinely feel like that's, my purpose here.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Vika. And thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, if you feel found value, please share it, like it, leave me a review. That's how we get the word out to more people. And yeah, reach out to Vika. If you need support, if you need resources, if you're struggling, reach out to Vika. Thank you so much, Vika, for being here. You're the best.
Thank you for having me. I'm extremely grateful. It will be another blessing I'll be celebrating tonight. So,
Yay. Bye, everyone.
bye bye.